Growing up, childhood has always had its different playgrounds. Laughter on the swings and slides at the local park, or rounders and football in the school playing fields. As a parent with children under 12, this is the childhood I grew up with. As parents and carers, we don't allow children under 10, or perhaps even up to 12, to go to these playgrounds alone. We go with them and spend hours watching them play, which can sometimes feel like an endurance. It takes up so much of our time, but nevertheless we do it because we know how important it is to keep them safe, because we know there will be dangers, and in these playgrounds you can physically see what they are. If your child falls and gets hurt or is upset by something, you can help straight away. If someone bothers your child or something doesn't look right, there are other adults around who can step in. Even at most public swimming pools, children under 12 need an adult with them, either in the water or at the side of the pool. And there's always a lifeguard ready to blow a whistle to stop unsafe behaviour and keep everyone safe. Children now have a new added playground, a digital one. And in these playgrounds, there are no fences, no lifeguards, and we're not there watching them play. And there are no other parents to step in when something goes wrong. In these digital playgrounds, we as parents are not with them on the sidelines for hours, watching, keeping them safe and helping them if they need it. For children under 12, platforms like Kids YouTube, Roblox, TikTok, Minecraft and WhatsApp groups aren't just entertainment, they are social spaces. But for parents, they're a world of risk. Yet we don't seem to be in there with them ourselves. Does the mere fact that when your child is at home playing in this digital playground make parents feel like they're safe because they can see their kids in a warm, safe environment in front of a screen, despite not really being able to see what they're doing? This documentary investigates, are today's parents really keeping up with their children's digital lives and online safety?
In terms of knowing about the apps and the access, my boys have got access to. I would say, in all honesty, probably not. I would hope that I'd got most of them.
I'm 99% sure I'm like on top of what they are accessing and how they're accessing it.
I conducted a survey aimed at parents and carers to ask them about their knowledge and confidence with their children's digital playground and online safety. I also interviewed parents, a former teacher, an online harms expert who has worked with these digital platforms, and an online specialist from the charity the NSPCC to find out how we are keeping up with our digital world.
I will always look at the rating of the game or whatever it is. And generally, with that, I'll probably have a bit of a look on what parents say, because I've noticed, especially with my eldest, some might say 12, but it might have things that I'm not comfortable with. So, whether it be a level of violence or whether it be like language or sexual nature or drugs or alcohol, I'm quite, I've realized with my eldest that I don't just kind of go on the age. I'll do my own little kind of little bit of reading up on it as well.
Both of them have got on all their devices children's profiles, specific children's profiles set up with locked restrictions on the type of content they can access and their ability to add new friends and communicate with people that are not approved friends as well. And they have to follow a request process to add new applications.
According to Ofcom, digital technologies now play an essential role in the lives of children. In their latest report, released in 2023, it showed that amongst UK children aged between 8 and 11, 91% engaged in regular online activity. 97% access video sharing platforms, with YouTube being the most common, and 64% use TikTok, despite the platform's minimum age being 13. 30% have their own smartphones by the age of 9, with this percentage increasing sharply each year. A large proportion of parents who now have children under the age of 12 have had their childhoods before this huge digital shift that's taken place in this last decade. For them and me, friendships were at social gatherings and school playgrounds, and once at home, that's where the conversations and play ended. But for their children and mine, when they get home, the digital playground is still open. the platforms are shaping our children's friendships, playground conversations, and even children's identities.
A really interesting Ofcom study, I think it was last year, and they said an average child wants 48 likes on a post before they're happy about themselves. And it's they're using more and more filters. So a big red flag, if your child can't take a picture without a filter being in place, then it's time to kind of talk about body image and the self-esteem.
When we grew up, your whole life wasn't possible to document everything that happened and everything stupid that you did, everything stupid that you said. Whereas now it is. I'm not looking forward to having to navigate that, because it'll just be so anxiety provoking, where people won't actually want to interact with each other in a natural way because they'll be worried about it being documented and broadcast.
The digital world is moving fast for many parents. It feels like childhood has shifted somewhere unfamiliar. I asked parents of children under 12 what worried them most. What many of them told me is online strangers in games like Roblox, YouTube videos with inappropriate content, TikTok challenges no one seems to control, cyberbullying in chat groups like WhatsApp, and online predators and online toxic influencers like Andrew Tate, whose words and messages of misogyny are reaching boys as young as 9.
His age, or I'm not sure, but he does tend to come to me a lot if there's something that he's not sure about, which is something I have told both of the kids. It's because I think that all of these rules and passwords and things are great, but things can still get through the cracks. It's something I'm definitely noticing with my eldest and the apps that he's on. So I've tried to encourage them to come and talk to me about things that maybe they're not sure about, or friend requests coming through.
My biggest risk for online gaming is exposure to older children or adults posing as children, and them adding my kids as friends and trying to communicate with them, or using like particularly bad language or racist language. Like, that is my biggest worry with the platform.
Platforms like TikTok and YouTube push content because it's popular, not because it's healthy. By the time parents catch up, it's already in children's heads. A report by the NSPCC in 2022 warned that online risks are already part of everyday life for young children, which highlights that parents and online restrictions normally react to problems after they've happened.
I think the system is really hard for parents because you're presented with an industry who aren't doing their job. They're not creating these apps and games safer by design. They're not thinking about our children's safety from the moment they think, right, let's think up a new game. We need to think about children when we're designing this. And then with the online safety bill, perhaps it's not robust enough. That time and time again, it's fallen to children keeping themselves safe online with how apps and sites are designed. And as parents and carers, we need to recognise that. And that, yet again, despite the online safety bill, at the moment, it's down to us to help our children keep safe online.
The results from my survey told me that parents aren't ignoring the problem, but most of them are using parental controls to manage screen time and permissions for certain features, and generally they are using age restriction guidelines, but not always. Parents I interviewed told me of the difficulties of when younger children have older siblings. The age restrictions can get lost and blurred, so it's harder to keep up with what the younger ones are doing.
I would say it's just, I don't know, he probably watched his brother play earlier than he should have. And I think he's probably got, friends that have older siblings as well. So, we've let him, and then maybe older siblings, those with older siblings have been let younger as well. So he already, even though he's younger, he's probably got, or he did have, a group of friends that he could play online with. And I don't know what it is. I don't know whether you just feel a little bit more relaxed about it, maybe too relaxed. If you kind of laid it all out to me in black and white and what we were actually doing, I would be mortified. You're running through life and you're busy, and, it's not an excuse, but that's what happens. And you think, oh, he'll be all right. He's got an older brother.
Parents feel like referees in a game where the rules keep changing, and the players, their children, and the tech companies who are shaping these digital worlds. I looked into Who else is responsible to keep up with the children's digital world and online safety? And I spoke to a former teacher about a major shift in the last 20 years of children using and interacting with digital tools for learning and play.
There's been a major shift in the last 20 years from the perspective of a secondary teacher. So obviously 20 years ago, there were no phones, very little technology in the classroom at all, actually 20 years ago. I would say in the last 10 years, and particularly since COVID, students have interacted in the classroom, used to allow phones to be used for research and other activities. But also, obviously, they have their computer lessons, iPads. So technology has played a bigger role in teaching and learning, but I think it's also had a key impact on the way that children or young people learn. For example, so I'm a history teacher, and what I found, particularly maybe in the last 5 years, is that some students, particularly maybe the younger students coming up from primary school, attention span a lot less than it had been previously. So having to think about doing lots of short tasks that only take, say, 10, 15 minutes, a lot of changing of tasks, because attention span certainly has had an impact on what's going on in terms of learning, but also in terms of teaching as well.
It was interesting to hear how teachers have also had to adapt and keep up with these digital tools.
I think there has been a lot of, I think the key word there is keeping up. And I think sometimes, and obviously it varies from school to school and who's in charge maybe of, for example, online safety education. But I think it is very much about keeping up. And I think it's about keeping one step ahead of what is actually happening and what the students can do. And I do think, certainly in terms of online safety in particular, I do think that probably some schools, and maybe myself included, we're one step behind really. And I mean, certainly the school that I was working in was very up on giving students many lessons, education, digital literacy, all of that. But we still had problems in terms of what they were getting up to on their phones and the impact that that was having on their relationships at school with other students in particular.
And how behaviours in classrooms have changed now children have more digital entertainment and screen time at home as well as in the school.
Young people are very savvy and they're very clever at getting around maybe steps that are taken to maybe try and keep them safe. A lot of the problems still happening outside of the classroom, outside of the school, but were having an impact on what was happening in school. So students were, sending messaging, cyberbullying. That was being brought into the school, and staff were having to deal with that. I think most schools have limitations, and on computers that are used in class, there's only certain sites and so on. But I think it's what's happening outside of school is impacting as well still on what's happening inside of school.
Speaking to an online harms expert who has worked with some gaming platforms and tech companies and the NSPCC, they say parents can't handle this alone. Schools, tech companies, regulators all have a role as well as the parents.
All platforms have a wide variety of systems and what we call tools in place to monitor what goes on a platform. Now, we know they utilize AI capabilities, but not secret, they do. They have internal systems that can pick up certain words, certain phrases, certain images, and so on and so forth. They use human moderation as well. So they do have capabilities, but we're talking billions of posts every single day. And part of it is what is actually illegal. Now, in the UK, we've got the Online Safety Act. We've now got the age verification laws. Okay, so if these young people, 11, 12 years, are on these sites and that is below the age of which they should be, these platforms will have to kick these kids off. They will lose their accounts. Now, we know kids are going to try and bypass it. We know this. Okay, so they're now looking at identifiers to identify people who shouldn't be on it. So if there are young people on platforms and there's an age restriction, they're going to have to either leave or they're going to get kicked off. We know there are ways to bypass it. Okay, and there are a multitude of ways. It is law. Okay, just to be clear about that, we have to do what we can. It's one small part of the safety measures.
When looking at the way children now have a new digital way of playing, forming friendships and having conversations, sociologist Manuel Castells calls this network society. Childhood today is shaped by global flows of information. Benedict Anderson described imagined communities of people feeling connected even if they've never met. Parents told me they regularly talk to their children about talking to strangers online and their online safety, but they don't always feel confident about how to keep their children safe. Some even admitted they don't fully understand the platforms themselves.
I think it's scary because it's overwhelming. Even when I think I've looked at things and got a handle on it, I don't think I have. I think there was just so much with it. But I think, when we're in our day today, busy day, we kind of just think, I can't get my head around all of that. It doesn't seem simple. It doesn't seem simple and effective. It's like you think you've got your parental controls, you think that'll be enough. But in all reality, it's not. I think it's that lack of understanding of what they can actually do to have a better control over it, other than take it away, or other than say you're not playing on it.
It would seem parents are present, they care, they try, but many feel outpaced. More than half in my survey had already stepped in after their child encountered something unsafe online. Childhood is changing, but the need to protect it isn't. So, the question isn't whether parents are keeping up, it's whether schools, tech companies, governments, regulators will finally help them, because keeping children safe online isn't just a family job, it's a shared responsibility.
There's definitely a lack of awareness about what the technology can do for you, like what the settings are that you can use to help protect your own child. Perhaps they should do more to advertise it and make it easier. But I think there's probably a lack of general understanding of what's available. I think the main emphasis is on the parents to be able to be curious to find out what that is rather than rely on someone to tell them.
It's got to be a three-prong approach. Education, it needs to be up on their digital literacy, education. I think parents have got to absolutely come on board with supporting what the schools are doing. I think the platforms have to do a lot more to make children safer.
But there are lots of things parents can do to help keep children safe online and keep up with their digital worlds. It starts with healthy, ongoing conversations. Talk to children early about what they're doing online. What do they enjoy and why? Who are they talking to? And what, if anything, worries them? Creating a home where children feel comfortable sharing without fear of losing screen time and punishment helps keep that trust open. Parents can also stay curious. That means keeping up to date with the games, apps and platforms children are using. If we're prepared to spend hours on end in the playground, in the rain, surely we have time to look into these platforms and look into these games, perhaps even play the games with the children, watch a few TikTok videos with them, ask them to show you how Roblox and such gaming platforms work.
Even if the tech companies and the government and the online safety bill works as it should work, I think the onus on parents helping to keep their children safe will never go away. And I think as parents, we wouldn't want it. We would teach them to cross the road, that they know they can come and talk to a safe adult. If anything ever worries or upsets them, it's not a case about getting into trouble or devices taken away. There needs to be that kind of two-way conversation, regular conversation. And I think that will never go away. The need to have those regular conversations, no matter what kind of regulations are brought in.
If any parents and carers are listening and need advice or support, there are excellent resources available. The NSPCC provides guidance about online safety and runs a free helpline if you need to talk, and also reports on children's media use, and websites like Common Sense Media offer reviews of apps, games and shows so parents can make informed decisions.
The key message for parents is if they feel like that they haven't been prepared to help their children stay safe online, then help is available. Talk to other parents, share top tips, share supervision, use sites like Common Sense Media. No question is too silly or anything like that, because it's really important to help keep every child safe online.
The digital world can feel overwhelming, but you don't have to face it alone. Help is there. both online and offline.